Revealed, the inspiring tale of a black maid who amazingly defended a billionaire left behind. Every corner of Hillcrest felt the ripple. Clara Johnson, hardworking maid, devoted mother, and the heart of her modest home, was standing by Robert Kingsley, once Kinga's towering rich man, now a cautionary tale of loss. It was unthinkable, a betrayal to many. Yet, here she was, defying the town's collective anger. Could it be her compassion that shone in a world clouded with judgment? Clara, aged 38, was more than just a maid. She was a force of nature. Her day started at dawn, juggling cleaning houses and cooking dinners, all while pinching pennies to support her brilliant daughter, Zoe. With dreams of college dancing in Zoe's bright eyes, Clara worked tirelessly so her daughter could soar beyond their humble beginnings. Their small home, filled with laughter and love, was all she needed. It was her sanctuary, a symbol of resilience against the harsh winds of economic inequality, but the community's whispers grew almost unbearable. Robert's fall had been swift, leaving him marooned in solitude. Clara had stumbled upon him in a quiet moment, his shoulders slumped in despair, his empire crumbled at his feet. It stirred something deep inside her. She recognized the pain of isolation. In a moment of vulnerability, she made the choice to help, to offer kindness where others had turned away. The town buzzed, furious and incredulous. How could she? They scattered her name like a curse. They crowded in clusters, murmuring disdain from porches, casting sidelong glances that sliced through the air. She is supporting the enemy. That sentiment roared louder when Zoe, her daughter, caught the wind of it. When she confronted her mother, her voice trembled. "Mom! How can you stand by him? You're just giving him a free pass." The rift widened. Clara felt the weight of her daughter's disapproval prick at her heart. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Clara stood against the pressure of her community, a soft voice nagged at her heart. Could she truly show kindness while others sought vengeance? In the depth of her struggles, these questions turned into a currency, one that bought them both the chance to heal. Clara found herself easing into conversations with Robert, finding a shared humanity hidden beneath layers of pain. Yet, just as hope flickered within her, an unexpected act of sabotage threatened to unravel everything she built. Someone wanted to protect their fragile society by tearing Clara down. The anger of the community pressed on her shoulders, their heated gazes burdening her spirit. Clara faced a devastating choice. It made her heart race. Can compassion truly prevail in a world divided by wealth, privilege, and race? As neighborly disputes erupted into bitter debates, Clara felt the ties connecting her to them tangling tighter. Would she have the courage to defend Robert against the growing tide of anger surrounding her, or would her fight for justice pull her family deeper into a struggle for survival? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over Hillcrest, but Clara Johnson felt as if the skies were turning gray around her. As she returned home after another taxing day of work and confrontation, her heart weighed heavy with uncertainty. The walls of her modest house, usually her sanctuary, now felt more like a prison filled with echoes of doubt. "Mom, I don't understand why you're doing this." Zoe's voice pierced through Clara's thoughts as she entered, livid yet anxious. The sight of her daughter's furrowed brow tightened a knot in Clara's stomach. "Zoe, you have to see it from my perspective," Clara tried to bring soothing tones to her voice. "Robert is a person. He is not just a billionaire who lost everything, he is struggling like you and me. But he is the reason so many families in Hillcrest are hurting. Isn't that enough reason to stay away from him?" Zoe protested, her cheeks flushed with frustration. Clara saw her daughter's youthful passion and fire, but it felt like a dagger. They were on opposite sides of a line drawn in the sand, and Clara knew that stepping over would mean risking everything. I realize the anger, honey, I do. But imagine if we were in his shoes. What would you want? To be alone? Or for someone to reach out a hand? Clara paused, willing her voice to steady. I can't turn my back on someone who needs help even if it's not popular. As she headed to the kitchen to put on some tea, the oppressive atmosphere lingered. Clara couldn't shake the whispers she'd heard earlier in the day, the flickers of judgment in the eyes of her neighbors as they passed her on the street. She felt exposed, raw. When she stepped out onto her porch later that evening, restless energy compelled her to look out over their small patch of yard. The shadows of their small community loomed larger than life in the twilight. Clara inhaled deeply, the cool air grounding her scattered thoughts. She was reminded again of her purpose, raising Zoe, keeping her dreams alive. Yet, this felt like a war of ideals that threatened to consume them both. The next morning, as dawn broke, Clara found a note slipped under her door. It was an anonymous message, simple and brutal: "You're just a maid. Keep your nose out of what doesn't concern you." The words made Clara's heart tremble. Who would have left such venomous encouragement? Tears of frustration blurred her vision as she grasped the paper tightly. All she wanted was to instill hope within Robert and, by extension, create a better future for her daughter. But at what cost? Moments later, she heard Zoe's footsteps pattering down the hall. She wiped her eyes quickly, trying to mask the unease. "Mom." Zoe's voice was softer. Clara turned, forcing a smile even as her heart raced. "I'm okay, honey. Just a little surprised." Zoe stepped forward, her expression conflicted. "What if people don't understand? What if they don't stop being mad at you? What if?" Clara reached out, holding her daughter close. "I don't know, Zoe. But sometimes courage means standing alone, even if the world tells you to back down." Suddenly, a loud banging on the front door startled them both. Clara's heart raced again. Who could it be? The last remnants of twilight had faded, and darkness swallowed the house whole. As she opened the door, an unexpected figure loomed in the doorway, a desperate Robert Kingsley, breathless and wild-eyed. "Clara, I need your help." Something's gone terribly wrong. The urgency in his voice gripped her attention, and anxiety coursed through her. But that was nothing compared to the swirling confidence in her heart. Was this the moment of truth she had feared? Clara stood frozen for a heartbeat, the warmth of the connection she had fostered with Robert simmering at the surface. This was not just about helping him, it was about confronting everything she had avoided. Before she could process the weight of his call, a chilling realization dawned on her: the choice to stand by his side just became even more perilous and perhaps more vital than she had ever imagined. Would she step into the storm, or would the world push her down another path? The door remained ajar, the night air filling with possibilities and peril. It was time to decide. Was she ready to face the storm brewing within Hillcrest? Clara hesitated, her heart thudding in her chest. The indecision weighed heavily on her shoulders, yet the desperation in Robert's eyes pulled her closer. She stepped aside, allowing him to enter. "Clara, thank you for coming through," he gasped, running a hand through his disheveled hair. His usual polished demeanor was shattered. "I don't know who else to turn to." "What happened?" Clara asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Robert closed the door behind him, the soft click echoing in the small entryway. "Things are spiraling out of control. My business is in jeopardy. There are rumors, Clara, dangerous ones, and I can't let them ruin me, ruin the people who still depend on me." Clara's mind raced. She knew the stakes, she'd seen firsthand how the media devoured the weak, how quickly fortunes could evaporate. Still, doubt filled her. "And you think I can help?" "Yes," he exclaimed, a spark of desperation igniting in his tone. "I need someone who understands, someone who sees beneath the surface. People are already tearing me down without knowing the whole story." Zoe's footsteps padded softly in the kitchen, but Clara barely registered the slight disturbance. She felt torn, caught between her daughter and the chaotic whirlwind that was now Robert's reality. The thought of her daughter's anger resurfaced, yet the thought of abandoning Robert, of leaving him to fight this battle alone, felt equally unbearable. "What do you want me to do?" Clara finally asked, her resolve strengthening as anxiety swirled. "There's a gala tonight," he explained briskly. "A fundraising event meant to showcase the turnaround in the business sector. If I can just get in front of the right people, I can salvage this. But there's opposition. I need someone to stand with me to show that I'm not the monster they think I am." It was a call to action, a plea for partnership that Clara could not overlook. Yet the weight of Zoe's unease remained like a heavy cloak. "Is this a good idea? The community, Clara, I know it's risky, but I can't do this without you. If I can retain even a fraction of my support, it could mean the difference between keeping my company alive or watching everything I built turn to ashes." Her heart raced. She longed for a straightforward answer, a clear path, but the moral line had blurred. "What if it backfires?" she whispered. "What if people turn against me? If we don't act, they'll decide the narrative for us," Robert insisted, his voice steady. "I need someone brave. Someone who believes in second chances." Hands trembling, Clara made eye contact with Robert. She saw vulnerability beneath layers of despair. This was more than just a billionaire's plea, this was a fight for justice, for compassion in a world that often silenced the vulnerable. Zoe entered the room, her expression a mix of confusion and caution. "Mom?" she asked, sensing the tension. "Zoe, wait, let me explain," Clara began, her heart heavy with the weight of her choice. As Robert took a step closer, his resolve shining through the bleak situation, Clara found herself leaning into the storm. "I'll help you," she said, the decision ripping from her chest like a sigh of relief. The moment was electric with promise and fear, fireworks of emotion intertwining. "But are you sure?" Zoe's voice quivered, the uncertainty palpable. "What about everything they've said?" "Sweetheart, sometimes we have to fight for those who can't fight for themselves," Clara replied, steeling herself. A rush of conviction fueled her words. Robert took a deep breath, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you, Clara. You won't regret this." As they tightened their plan for the evening, a silent understanding hung in the air. They were about to tread paths that would not only reshape their lives but the very fabric of Hillcrest itself. Yet even as determination brewed, a voice in the back of Clara's mind warned her of the brewing storm. As they headed for the gala, there was no saying who would align with them in fighting against the tides of resentment or who would emerge as the true allies in this battle, together. They stepped into the unknown, but Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely the beginning. What dangers awaited them at the gala? As the doors swung open to the world outside, a question loomed larger than ever: could they truly turn the tide, or were they stepping blindly into the chaos? As Clara and Robert drove through the affluent streets of Hillcrest, the luxurious mansions flickered by like fleeting memories she wished to forget. The air in the car was thick with anticipation, her pulse mirroring the rhythm of the engine. She stole a glance at Robert, who was gripping the wheel with a tension that threatened to crack his composure. "Have you thought about what you'll say tonight?" Clara asked, trying to inject some light into the gray shadows gathering in the car. "Just the truth," he replied, but his voice held a wavering edge. "I need them to see the real me. The me that built something great, not the reckless villain they've painted." Clara nodded, but the gnawing doubt in her gut only tightened. The echoes of gossip and disdain she had heard around town stung her heart. People found it so easy to spit venomous words without knowing the impact they had. She looked back toward home, a safe haven where Zoe was nestled, oblivious to the storm that swirled outside. "Are you ready for this, Clara?" Robert's voice brought her back, shaking her from her thoughts. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, a shaky smile twitching on her lips. As they approached the gala venue, the sheer size of the building loomed before them, all elegance and extravagance. It sent a ripple of anxiety through her, but she steeled herself. The music thumped from inside, a relentless reminder of the life she used to dream about until now. Stepping out of the car, Clara felt the chill of the evening air wrap around her like a shawl. She adjusted her dress, an old navy blue number that she hadn't worn in years. As they walked toward the entrance, her heart raced in tandem with the noise spilling from within. She remembered the last time she attended such an event, the swirl of glitzy outfits and wide smiles. That night had been about connection and opportunity, but tonight, it was a minefield of scrutiny and the potential for betrayal. Passing through the archway of silver and gold decorations, she felt a wave of eyes on her. Whispers floated through the air, not all of them kind. "Look who it is, the cleaning lady playing dress-up," a voice sneered from a corner. Clara's stomach churned, though she tried to ignore the comment. Robert shifted beside her, anger flickering in his eyes. "Don't pay them any mind." Clara squeezed his arm, finding strength in his presence. "It's fine. Let us focus on why we're here." The main hall pulsed with energy, rich individuals mingling, their laughter mingling with the clinking of glasses. Robert's shoulders, usually square and confident, were slightly hunched under the weight of expectation. They made their way through the crowd, and Clara's senses sharpened, every whispered conversation sounding louder. As they approached a cluster of powerful figures, including a few of Robert's staunch opponents, she felt tears breach the surface. Would this be an act of bravery or futility? The reality of their situation struck her hard. "Keep your head up, Clara. We'll show them," Robert whispered, his calmness easing her nerves. "Oh, how touching," a smooth voice interrupted. Clara turned to see Elaine, a notable figure in local politics, her smile laced with disdain. A maid standing by her master. How quaint. Clara's breath caught in her throat. This was at the test, the moment that could shift everything. Before she could think, the words burst from her like air let from a balloon. "You know, Elaine, sometimes the bravest things are done by those you least expect." The room seemed to hush. Robert's eyes widened in surprise, admiration mingling with the urgency of the night. Clara felt the eyes of the room flicker back to her, intrigued by the sudden confrontation. "What spineless talk." Elaine laughed, but there was fear in her demeanor that she couldn't mask. Clara straightened, emboldened as whispers swept through the crowd in that critical moment, she realized that the tide could indeed turn. But would they embrace it, or would the whirlwind of chaos consume them both? With resolve sparking within her, Clara glanced at Robert. Both of them caught in the undeniable orbit of fate. They were not merely players in this game, they were the storm. The night was far from over, and with every passing second, it became clearer that the real battle was just beginning. What consequences would arise from their defiance? As Clara took a deep breath, the answer loomed ahead, casting a shadow over their path. The silence in the hall stretched, hung thick and heavy like the ornate chandeliers above them. Clara's heart pounded, the sound echoing in her ears as Elaine's laughter faded. Robert's hand tightened around hers, and she could feel the heat radiating between them, a mixture of shared courage and the growing burden of expectation. Elaine's sharp gaze darted over Clara's dress, the sneer still painted on her lips. "What a clever show of defiance," she said, her voice dripping sarcasm. "But it's not going to change your place in this world." Clara felt a spark ignite in her chest. "You're right about one thing, Elaine. This world doesn't change easily," she said, her voice steady and clear. "But I refuse to stay silent while people like you belittle those who work hard." Whispers intensified, and Clara caught snippets of conversation. The eyes on her shifted, some looked curious, others ruthless. Robert shifted beside her, his presence a steady anchor against the tide of hostility. "Let us not distract from the evening's purpose," Robert interjected, his voice firm, a subtle yet powerful reminder of the wealth and success he had achieved despite the stigma. "We're here to discuss something important tonight, something that affects us all." Elaine scoffed, her attention now fully on him. "Ah yes, the big speech. Tell us, Robert," how do you plan to gloss over your past mistakes, your missteps? Maybe I will, he shot back, a fire burning in his gaze. But why don't you tell everyone what you really fear? That I'll succeed despite your best efforts to keep me down. Clara held her breath, the tension palpable in the room. She wished she could take Robert's place, take stakes into her own hands. A surge of camaraderie swept through her, as realization dawned that both she and Robert were standing on the same precipice of uncertainty. The atmosphere shifted, and an unexpected voice broke through the chorus of whispers. "Enough," said an older gentleman, his voice low yet commanding. He was Simone Harrison, a respected business mogul known for his straightforward nature. "We can all feel the energy in this room. We're past the needless prattle about social status. What we need to know is what Robert plans to bring to our community." Relieved, Clara turned her gaze to Robert. She wanted him to seize this moment, to weaponize the energy swirling around them. And he did just that. He took a step forward, the confidence streaming through him like a current. "I plan to elevate this community. To make meaningful investments in infrastructures, yes, but also in the people. The overlooked, the underestimated," he began, his voice rising over the crowd's murmurs. "I know what it's like to be told you're not enough, to wonder if you'll ever belong." Clara's heart swelled with pride. This man had stared down judgment, and now he was arguing for everyone silenced by their doubts. She felt an electric thrill at the possibilities ahead. Perhaps they could face this storm together after all, but then, the tension returned as Elaine's mocking laughter reverberated through the room once more. "And you think they will follow you? You've lost their trust, Robert. It won't simply come back because you wish it so." Clara stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "But it can happen if we prove through our actions that speak louder than past mistakes." The crowd was listening now. She could see intrigue on some faces, sparks of hope lighting the darkness. She took a deep breath, feeling the possibility of change hanging in the air. "We can start with respect. With dignity. I won't let your words shackle me anymore." As Clara glanced at Robert, she saw the warmth in his eyes, and a weight seemed to lift from his shoulders. The crowd buzzed with energy, murmurs and excited exchanges buzzing louder. Clara and Robert had ignited a flicker of unity amidst the storm. However, as the conversations around them swirled and grew, Clara felt an unsettling chill creeping up her spine. She glanced over her shoulder, and the expression on Elaine's face had transformed into something predatory, like a wolf watching its prey. What would be her next move? Clara could sense a battle brewing. The true fight of the night had yet to unfold. How far would Elaine go to protect her fragile power? Clara took a deep breath, resolute in her conviction, but the question lingered. Would they be able to hold on to this newfound strength? As the gala shifted back into chaos, all Clara could do was brace for the inevitable storm that was about to hit. Clara stood at the center of the tumultuous gathering, her heart still racing from the escalating confrontation. Around her, voices blended into a fervent symphony, each one weaving its opinion into the thick air, a shifting landscape of alliances being formed in real time. Robert's presence beside her was like a steady lighthouse amidst a raging sea, and for a moment, she drew strength from him, feeding off the positive energy that crackled between them. But then, the sound of heels clicking against marble stole her attention. Elaine made her way through the crowd, reclaiming the stage with the grace of a predator. Clara's stomach turned. The female figure embodied authority, but she also radiated an undercurrent of venomous rage. "Oh, Clara," Elaine began, her voice silkily sweet, laced with the kind of threat that sent shivers down Clara's spine. "Do you really think people will stand beside you? You think a few heartfelt words can erase your past? The truth is, you're still invisible." Clara bristled at those words, feeling the heat rise in her cheeks. She wanted to shout that she was visible, that she mattered. Yet, she felt a knot tightening in her throat. "It's not about erasing the past," Robert interrupted, stepping forward, claiming the battlefield as his own. "It's about building a better future. Together." His gaze swept through the room, trying to reach those now caught up in the whirlpool of emotions. We all deserve the chance to rise from where we've been planted. Elaine's eyes narrowed, and she flashed a sardonic grin that twisted in Clara's gut. Oh, isn't that touching? A billionaire reaching down to help the little people. How charming. There was a wave of disapproval that rippled through the onlookers, whispers more caustic than supportive. Clara's resolve stirred. She stepped forward, amplifying Robert's words. And if I'm little, that's all the more reason for us to rise together. We can lift each other up. We can't sit back and let fear dictate our futures. But the crowd was not yet swayed. More murmurs followed, a combination of skepticism and interest. Clara felt her heart sink. Was it enough to raise her voice? With a sudden shift, she felt Robert's hand on her shoulder, a grounding presence that brought clarity. They were in this together. Let us show them, he said softly but firmly, let us show them who we really are. He turned to the crowd, a mixture of determination and vulnerability bleeding into his words. This is a chance to change, not just for ourselves, but for everyone looking on. Investing means more than just money, it's about establishing bonds, communities, and trust. Clara nodded, feeling her heartbeat sink with Robert's fiery resolve. And it starts with being true to ourselves, she added. We've all been underestimated, but that makes us resilient. That makes us worthy. The crowd wavered, and Clara could sense a shift. The whispers grew softer, the anger diluted by voices wanting hope. Then, like a single drop sparking a torrent, one person in the back began to clap. Slowly, more followed, until the entire hall pulsed with recognition and approval. Clara's chest swelled, they could feel the momentum building, a rise that threatened to sweep Elaine and her web of deceit along with it, but as the energy bubbled to a boiling point, Clara caught sight of Elaine. She stood still, an eerie smile etched on her lips, but her eyes burned with fury and a hint of something darker. This was far from over. Just as Clara felt a surge of confidence, Elaine's laughter broke through the noise like thunder. You think you can sway them with empty words? How adorable. In that moment, Clara realized the stakes were even higher than she had anticipated. What would Elaine do? What lengths would she go to regain control? As the gala swirled into chaos once more, a battle for truth and power lay ahead. Clara swallowed hard. They were not just fighting for recognition, they were fighting for their lives, their identities, and their future. What plan would Elaine concoct next? Would Clara and Robert's new alliance withstand the storm? The evening had just begun, and the stakes were about to reach an unimaginable height. Clara's pulse quickened as she locked eyes with Elaine, who stood defiantly at the edge of the crowd. The laughter that had cut through the room lingered awkwardly, hanging like a heavy fog. Clara's heart raced not just from fear but from the fierce determination that surged within her. Elaine had a way of making people feel small, of planting doubt like weeds in a garden. But beneath Clara's anxiety lay a burgeoning fire. She looked around at the faces that had turned towards her, some only swayed by curiosity, others warming to her message. Together, Robert echoed softly, and Clara felt the strength of his solidarity behind her. She took a breath, willing herself to put everything on the line. We have all been at the mercy of others, Clara began. But tonight, we reclaim our voices. I refuse to be defined by the perceptions of others. I stand here not just for myself, but for every woman, every person who has been pushed aside, whose value has been questioned. The words flowed like a river, her voice rising above the whispers. We're not here to hide in the shadows of our pasts. We're here to create ripples of change. We are worthy of respect, worthy of hope. Applause rippled through the crowd again, but Clara could sense Elaine's icy presence, her eyes narrowing into slits that promised retribution. Behind that polished facade, Elaine's anger simmered. Oh Clara, Elaine's voice danced cynically in the air, dripping with disdain. Do you really think you can move mountains with ambition and a pleasant smile? Her laughter sliced through Clara's resolve like a knife. You've seen where that path leads straight to obscurity. You're fooling yourself. Those words stung, but Clara stood firm. No, Elaine. These are not just words. They are a call to action. A call for unity. As Clara spoke, she saw nods in the crowd, felt the tide moving in her favor. But the battle was ongoing. With every moment that passed, she could almost feel the chill of Elaine's frustration, like a storm gathering strength. Then, in that charged atmosphere, Clara caught the gaze of a woman near the front, a former co-worker, someone Clara had fought alongside in the trenches of their demanding jobs. The woman's eyes sparkled with understanding, a bond born from shared struggles. Clara needed that connection now more than ever. We all have strengths inside us that we've kept hidden. But together, we can stand tall. Together, we are unstoppable. More clapping erupted, louder this time, a wave of support washing over her like sunlight breaking through clouds. Just as hope ignited in Clara's chest, Elaine stepped back, her expression tightly controlled. Fine, Elaine intoned, her voice dripping with venom, you want to play? Let us see how high you can fly before you crash. Her smile now seemed to slice, not invite, and Clara felt an uncomfortable chill creep down her spine. Something stirred in Clara, a mix of fear and fierce bravery. Elaine was a force to reckon with, and Clara understood the depths of her malice all too well. But wearing the armor of vulnerability had emboldened her, made Clara realize she wasn't alone anymore. As the applause continued, Clara turned to Robert, whose gaze met hers with undeniable faith. We can't stand down now, he whispered. We may have only begun to fight. The unease in Clara's chest began to settle. The stakes were clearer than ever, it was a battle of power, identity, and the relentless urge for change. Would they emerge victorious, or would Elaine's cunning plans unravel their cause? The night was still thick with tension, and Clara could sense that the next moment would tip the scales forever. The air crackled with anticipation, each person hanging on to Clara's words. A single moment felt suspended in time. She could almost feel the ground beneath her shifting, as if the very foundation of their collective resolve could change at any second. The murmur of the crowd settled when she straightened her back, inhaling deeply. She had come too far to back down now. Behind her, Robert's reassuring presence acted like a tether, reminding her of why she was fighting. She shielded her vulnerability with courage and pushed through. Change doesn't happen in silence, she declared, her voice growing even firmer. It happens when we stand up, when we refuse to be ignored. Each of us carries the weight of our stories, and they deserve to be heard. A swell of agreement rippled through the crowd, a heartbeat that echoed Clara's own. Just then, a voice from the back called out, but what can one person do? One story isn't enough. Gasps rippled through the onlookers as Clara turned, her heart racing again. Could she truly bridge that gap? A flicker of doubt crept in, but she steadied herself. Then let us change one to many. Each story can inspire another. Together, we weave a fabric of resilience that can withstand any storm. Look around you. Each of us has faced challenges. She pointed to a man whose hands were rough and worn, and a woman with tear-streaked cheeks. We all have voices to lift, battles to fight. Let's unite. The crowd erupted once more, but Clara could feel the dagger-like gaze of Elaine bearing down on her, calculating and cold. Elaine's eyes were sharp, her lips a thin line as she looked at the crowd, watching. The anticipation was palpable, a taut string that could snap with a single wrong word. Clara, eloquence does not equal strength. You may rally them now, but watch how quickly they scatter when the winds of challenge blow. Elaine's voice rang out, attempting an edge of authority. Clara stepped forward, meeting Elaine's challenge head-on. It's easy to critique from the sidelines. But do you know what true strength is? It's this, standing here in front of people who believe in change. And they can't be silenced. Laughter rippled through the crowd at Elaine's flustered expression, and it empowered Clara tenfold. From the front, the woman she locked eyes with earlier stood taller, a newfound determination etched on her face. Clara smiled, sensing a bond forming within the hearts of the gathered, a true community emerging, ready to rally together. Together, Clara repeated, letting the weight of the word hang in the air. Together, we can support one another. Together, we can break this cycle of fear. Elaine's brows furrowed, her control was slipping. Clara could almost see the calculations racing through her mind. What was Elaine planning? The thought clawed at Clara's resolve, yet spurred her forward. Tonight is just the beginning. But I need each of you. Let us prove, she choked back emotion, fighting tears, that our voices matter. That we are a force for change. Not just for us, but for the generations to come. Her words hung in the air, pregnant with the promise of hope. Cheers erupted, a symphony of solidarity rising above the tension. The storm that Elaine had threatened felt ever more distant as hearts aligned in purpose. Just as Clara began to believe they might truly overcome Elaine's shadow, a sudden commotion broke out to her left. A figure emerged from the crowd, eyes wide and desperate. Clara. You need to hear this. The urgency in the woman's voice sent a shiver down Clara's spine. She instantly recognized that the stakes had just risen. What news could turn their uphill battle into an altogether different fight? Get ready, Clara thought, bracing herself, because this could change everything. As Clara turned to face the newcomer, a ripple of unease swept through the crowd. The woman's wild eyes darted around, as if she was searching for validation or perhaps a sense of safety amid the chaos. Clara felt a lump form in her throat. The urgency was palpable, and yet she didn't know yet if this was good news or about to deepen their struggle. Clara, it's about the petition. The woman gasped, breathless. It's not just a simple issue anymore. There's more at stake. With that, the crowd leaned in closer. Clara could feel their collective breath, a tight knot of anxiety and anticipation. What do you mean? Clara demanded, stepping further into the light. She had to stay strong, even as her heart raced with uncertainty. Elaine, she's not just some obstacle, the woman said, her voice shaking. She's working with bigger forces. They're planning to shut down our efforts entirely. I overheard her talking to some people connected to the mayor. Gasps echoed through the crowd as shock rippled among them. Clara's mind started to overload. This couldn't be happening. They just started to unify, to feel the spark of hope ignite, but now it felt like a storm was brewing on the horizon. Shut down what? Clara pressed, her voice shaking slightly. Will they take our stories? Our voices? The woman nodded, her expression grim. If we don't act now, they'll wipe this all out. The change we're seeking. It will never reach the light of day. We need to be louder. We need to expose the truth. The weight of her words hung heavily over Clara like a shroud. Silence fell over the gathering, each face reflecting a tension born of disbelief and determination. Did you hear that? Clara finally said, her heart beating wildly. This is more than just us. This is about every single person who believes in what we're fighting for. We can't let Elaine or anyone take that from us. The crowd erupted, not in fear but in a newfound fire. They were ready to resist whatever darkness was approaching. Clara felt a rush of strength flare within her. Was this what they needed, a push to realize the depths of their resolve? For every story that goes unheard, we rise, Clara cried, channeling the fervor from the crowd. For every silenced voice, we amplify. We can't back down. If they think they can intimidate us, they have another thing coming. The cheers intensified. Clara felt her muscles tense, every word resonating through her veins like electricity. They were more than just individuals, they were sealed in a movement, a promise that they wouldn't give up. As the crowd began chanting, together. Together. Clara's heart soared. But then her intuition tugged at her once more. A cold wind seemed to creep upon them, and she realized, Elaine wouldn't retreat easily. Clara glanced over her shoulder, eyes scanning the crowd. She caught a glimpse of Elaine, her expression unreadable, flanked by two stern-looking figures, perhaps allies in this twisted game. Clara felt a shudder of dread. Just when they thought they were gaining momentum, the threat loomed larger than before. She faced the crowd again, determination hardening in her chest. "We need to be ready for whatever comes next. Let us spread the word." Let us. A loud crash interrupted her, and the crowd gasped collectively, heads turning to see what had happened. Clara felt the air suck out of her lungs. What now? The fight was far from over. But there was only one way to find out if they could truly rise to the occasion. Would they face the dangers together, or would they scatter in fear? Clara stood frozen, knowing that the next moments could redefine everything. She inhaled deeply, aware that every heartbeat answered the question. Resilience was the only option. But darkness gathered on the edges, threatening to take that choice away. What would happen next? Clara had to find out fast. Clara steadied her breath, the crash ringing in her ears like a klaxon. The gala had erupted into chaos, but amid the tumult, her spirit remained unyielding. "Everyone, listen." She called out, projecting her voice through the disarray. "This is our moment. We remind ourselves why we're here. Together." The crowd looked to her, a blend of fear and determination reflected in their eyes. Robert stepped closer, mirroring her resolve, his hand finding hers. It was a silent pledge, their bond steadfast against stormy winds. As shadows closed in, Clara could feel Elaine's sharp gaze boring into her, the political figure's smirk tinged with menace. "Oh, Clara," Elaine sneered, edging forward like a predator towards its prey. "You think passion can change the world? It's adorable. But convictions shatter just as easily as glass." "Passion is just a spark," Clara shot back, squeezing Robert's hand for strength. "But unity is a roaring fire. It ignites change and it spreads quickly. So mock us all you want, we stand firm." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, feisty whispers of support mingling with skepticism. Clara caught the eyes of the woman who had first shared the alarming news, her reflection bubbling with fortitude. This wasn't just about her. It was about a community rising from the ashes of adversity. Moments later, as if on cue, the doors swung open and in stormed a group of figures from the city officials, necks adorned with glistening badges and scowls etched deep. With them came a chill that swept across the hall, a reminder that the fight was far from over. "Who authorized this gathering?" One of the officials barked, voice booming, demanding attention. Tension crackled in the air, pulling at the fabric of Clara's courage. "I did," Clara declared, holding her ground as the crowd quieted. "We are here to unite for change, to strengthen our voices, and to reject the silence that's been expected of us." Elaine's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Such a bold statement, dear Maid. But you're only stirring trouble," she said, stepping back as if she were a puppeteer anticipating their wretched dance. "I've never been one to shy away from trouble when it's necessary," Clara answered, fierceness flooding her veins. "This isn't mere protest, it's a call to action. We are the very heart of our community, and we refuse to be disregarded." She looked at the crowd, their faces had lit up with a flame of encouragement, hope shimmering behind their hesitation. It was palpable, the realization that they had each other's backs. Clara caught sight of Zoe standing at the back, eyes wide and filled with pride. Clara's heart swelled. This was their moment to embrace. With renewed strength, she stepped forward, her voice like a clarion call. "We will not be taken lightly. Our stories may differ, yet they intertwine in ways that reflect our shared truths. We deserve a community where all voices count." An official cleared his throat, cutting through her fervor. "This gathering is unpermitted, we're shutting it down." But Clara stood resolute, unbowed by threats. "You can shut down this event, but you can't silence our message. We'll take it to the streets, to social media, and into every home in Hillcrest. Our fight is just beginning." As the stirred crowd erupted into applause, Clara felt the swirling winds of change lift her. This was the spark she longed for. You really think you can mount this revolution? Elaine sneered, but her voice wobbled, revealing the uncertainty lurking beneath her confidence. Absolutely, Robert stated, his voice steady. And if you try to stifle us, you'll be the one to suffer, Elaine. Change is coming, with or without you. The air thickened with tension, Eleanor's facade cracking ever so slightly. The crowd pressed forward, emboldened by the words of Clara and Robert. We are standing together. A voice from the back called, igniting a wave of cheers. Together. They roared, determination intertwining their hopes like a grand tapestry, but Clara could feel Elaine plotting, an insidious presence lingering. We'll take every measure necessary to protect our people, Clara declared, eyes fierce and bright. As whispers coursed through the throngs, Clara turned her back to Elaine, focusing on the warmth of her community, a pulsing heartbeat behind her. We will rise from this, she asserted, and strengthen our networks. We'll connect with those who've felt the weight of neglect. We aren't afraid to bring light where a shadow has lurked for too long. Joan, the former co-worker she had spotted earlier, stepped forward, shifting uneasily but resolute. Let us plan a rally, share our stories. We need to spread the word not just here, but everywhere. If they hear us collectively, they cannot ignore us. Finally, a roar of approval enveloped them. Clara felt tears welling in her eyes. This was it, this was the release. They could do it, they were more powerful together. Now, Clara shouted over the jubilant noise, her voice rising and soaring. Let us unite. We'll meet next week. We'll gather our stories, and we won't allow this moment be stolen from us. We'll fight for justice, dignity, and truth. Cheers erupted, shaking the very foundation of the venue as they began to strategize, collective voices now spilling into action. As the officials began to step forward, attempting to disperse them, Clara held her ground. We will not be silenced anymore. Be it here or afar, hear us loud and clear. Those menacing figures faltered in their advance, caught off guard by their shared vigor. Elaine's figure faded into the background, fury simmering but powerless against an undercurrent of unity that Clara could feel surging through the room. She turned back to the crowd, a wild smile breaking across her face. They were ready to fight, ready to reclaim their power. Clara had never felt so alive, so free. Her heart finally shared its truth, echoing within each gathered soul. And as she embraced the momentum, the conviction in the air whispered one resounding truth: this community was indomitable, and they would carve their future together. As the gala began to unravel, the official's power dwindling amidst their rallying cries, Clara's spirit danced above the chaos. They had broken the chains of expectation, and it was just the beginning. It was their turn to shine, and there was no storm threatening to silence them now. Clara turned to Robert, eyes alight with hope. We did it, she marveled, heart surging. Together. The night may have shaken them, but it ignited their purpose, solidifying their resilience. They had the courage to change their narrative, and the winds of transformation were only beginning to blow through Hillcrest. The door had swung wide open for their future, and they were ready to walk through it, hand in hand. Now more than ever, Clara believed together, they could defy the odds. And outside, under the canopy of stars, Clara whispered her prayer of gratitude to the universe, knowing their journey was just beginning. That if you felt the rush of this story, it's time to become part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment with your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support, and together we can rise even further. Don't wait not even one more second to share.